Alright, so I told you to be ready with linear inequalities. That's the same stuff that we've been doing, except now it'll have a greater than or less than sign. So, not anything earth-shattering on it that we can't handle. First one I've got here for us, as soon as my marker wakes up. There we go. First one I've got here for us says k minus 5 is greater than 1. Okay? The directions say solve and graph. Now, when we have directions that say graph, when we're doing this kind of stuff, if you only have one variable, it's a number line. You don't get into an XY graph until you have two variables, an X and a Y, or some other combination of two. This one variable, we'll just be graphing on a number line. So k minus 5 is greater than 1. We're going to solve it just like it were an equal sign. So k's got 5 being subtracted. We're just going to add. So add 5 to itself and to its buddy on the other side. And we get a k is greater than 6. So that's baby stuff, no big deal on that. We got to put that on our number line now. You do not have to go over the top with your number line. Y'all know I usually put the number I'm dealing with and then one below it and one above it. I don't go in too great of a detail. I got to know which way greater than that number would go. It goes to the right, so I'm going to shade everything to the right, including my arrow. Now, we talked last week about the different types of new marks that we could see. Normally, last year when we were in Algebra 2, I would have put an open circle on that. Okay, so that's one correct option. But for this class, we're going to look at other options. What do I put if it's just greater than? Parentheses. So put a parenthesis on that. Remember, it gets the bracket if it's got the line underneath it. So just parentheses. Okay, that'd be good there for my graph. Then we could write that in interval notation. Interval notations where it's in the parentheses or brackets. So I just drop this down like it is. My smallest piece of that is 6 and it has a parentheses and it goes forever to the right, which is to infinity. Infinity always gets a parentheses because you can't touch this. Nobody ever thinks that's funny. If I could do the hammer, I would do it, but you know, that hurt myself. Y'all have to call 911. It'd be good. Scout would point and laugh. You know. Alright, we're alright on that. Easy stuff, easy stuff. Now, let's make it the inequality a little bit tougher. This one says 5x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 4x minus 1. Okay, so all we've done on this case is added a variable on both sides. So this is that middle school equation that they panic over because they don't know where to start, because you got options. You can start with any 4 of those pieces. So, Caleb Pittman, pick what piece you want to start with. Add a boy, we're going to add the 1 because that's what Caleb wanted to do. You could have started with any of those. Now I added the 1 to itself and to its like term. You can't add it to an x. That gets me 5x plus 4 is greater than or equal to 4x. Now, because Caleb did that, we're fixing to get farther in the lesson faster than I had anticipated, and that's great. So thank you, Caleb. Angie, what does Caleb have to do now? Subtract the 5x. Okay, so that 5x goes away. That leaves me with 4 is greater than negative 1x, greater than or equal to negative 1x. Now, what I was talking about, later on in the lesson, we learned something, and you remember it from Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, something special we have to do when we have a negative variable. Anytime we multiply or divide by a negative, what happens to our inequality sign? It flips. Very good. So that's a negative x, which means negative 1x. So I'm dividing everything by negative 1. 4 divided by negative 1 gives me negative 4. I divide it by a negative, so I flip my sign, and then that gives me a positive x. Now, really fixing to confuse some of you, not intentionally, but y'all know me well enough, and I always like to put my variable first. Because if my variable is first, I can read from the variable, and that will tell me which way to shade my number line. Right now, I'm not very smart, so I'm confused on which way my number line gets shaded. So I'm going to rewrite this by putting the x first, and when I do that, my sign will flip back. Okay? It doesn't really flip. I'm just rewriting it in a different way, but y'all will look at it and think it'll flip. So this, if I look right here from the X where my mouse is, and I read that backwards, that says X is greater than or equal to -4, doesn't it? So that's the same way I'm going to write it down here. These two inequalities that I've just made, those are both correct, and they're the same thing. It's just another way of writing it. Everybody okay on that? If you don't like rewriting it the way I did, you don't have to. I just graph it better if it's that way. That's my personal preference. Holy cow. No. So on my number line now, either way you've written it, you got to get the number line right, but I know I can get it right for sure now. I'm going to have negative, oh, my number line just flew. Let's draw another one, see if it'll fly. I'm going to have -5, -4, -3. Now since I've rewritten this down here, I know that X has to be greater than or equal to -4, and everything goes to the right. If you could have gotten that from leaving it here, then you can do that, but I'm not smart enough. Now, do I put a parentheses or a bracket on -4? Bracket, very good. So my interval notation, farthest left it goes, is bracket -4 to infinity. Parentheses always goes on infinity. Can't touch this. That's pretty cool how my number line flew. Alright.
What's the bracket for?
The bracket you get when it's got that equal line underneath it. When we did it in Algebra 2, Dylan, we would put an open circle or a colored in circle. Now it could be a bracket or parentheses. Remember that? That's a good question, Sir Hager. Yeah. Is that all right?
Is that medieval?
Well, you know. Now, since we've been introduced to some sign flipping, would my sign flip on that when I solve it? No is correct. What genius said that? Who? Good, Austin. His name's Austin. Austin is the one with curly hair, and Nathan's kind of got curly hair too. Austin is correct. It would not flip, but some people will say, well, the 100 is negative. It's going to flip. It's the variable that you're concerned with, because I'm going to be, that variable is being multiplied by 4, so I'm dividing by 4. 4 is a positive number. I'm dividing by a positive number, so it does not flip. Okay? If it had been if the 4 had a negative, would this one flip? Yes, I divide by a -4, so that would flip the sign. Okay? Good job. Alright. Let's look at some more. Add some parentheses into the mix here in just a second. Good. Alright, I got 6 times the quantity of x minus 1 plus 3x is greater than or equal to negative x minus 3 times x plus 2. So that looks like it's going to be a little bit of a booger. Any ideas on how we could start? Okay, Angie wants to start distributing, and you can do that on both sides, can't you? On our left side, I'm going to distribute the 6. Give me a 6x minus 6 plus 3x. Alright, I'll just keep on going to the right side. Normally I prefer to clean that up first, but we'll clean it up later. We'll keep on going to the right side. Greater than or equal to negative x. Now, I'm going to distribute this as a -3, and whatever sign is, that'll be my plus minus sign. So -3 times x is -3x, and -3 times 2 is -6. Okay, so now we've got cleaning up to do on both sides. Cleaning up just means combining like terms, whatever you need to look at. So on the left, we've got a 6x and a positive 3x. So is everybody good on the left side? Okay, on the right side, I've got a negative x and a negative 3x. Everybody good on the right side? Now, there are 4 places you could start, and any of them would work. Okay, and y'all know me, and I like to always try to keep my variable positive. In my opinion, that's a little bit more important now than it is in a regular equation. In a regular equation, if you divide by a negative, the sign stays the same. An equal sign doesn't flip. But now if I have a negative variable and have to divide by a negative, I got to make sure I remember to flip the sign. So I'll usually, my personal preference, try to avoid that so that I don't have to forget about flipping a sign. But it doesn't matter. Caleb proved that. We'll get the right answer either way. Okay? So, okay, I'm with Valentina. That's exactly what I would do. I would add 4x to both sides. So that way I'm sure my variable is positive, and it's also over there on the left where I like it. So I'm satisfied in 2 ways here. 9x and 4x gives me 13x. Bring down my minus 6. Greater than or equal to. That's gone. Bring down my minus 6. Now, we talked, I think it was earlier in the week, about no solutions and identities. We have new words for them, contradictions and all that stuff. A lot of people are going to look at this and start saying contradiction, no solution. Wrong. Okay? Why would they think that? Can you look at that and tell me why they would start thinking that? Maybe because you get 0. But we are smart. Most of us are, I think all of us, though, we've got 2 smart juniors with us, but the rest of us are seniors. We've made it through a lot of math class, even the smart juniors. And we know 0 is a number. So 0 is a good answer. Just because you get a 0 doesn't mean no solution. You would be surprised how many people will get 0 and write no solution. Makes me want to start smacking people. Add 6. Add 6. Gives me 13x. Those 6's go away. Greater than or equal to. The 6's go away here also. But I can't just leave it off on both sides. That's a value of 0. Okay, now my x is being multiplied by 13. So I divide by 13, gives me x is greater than or equal to 0, which is a number. That's a good answer. Okay, let's write it on our number line in an interval notation. My number line, 0 being between -1 and 1. Which way will I shade this number line, left or right? Right, good. What kind of mark will go on 0? Parentheses or bracket? Bracket. Good. So now, that's my personal preference to do my number line first, because then that's showing me my interval notation. I just bring this bracket 0 to forever. Okay.
So greater than is going to always be the right? Unless it always goes to the right?
As long as the variable's first, which is why I said I like to rewrite it with my variable first. Because that's, a lot of people will look at this and say, this is middle school mentality. They'll look at this and say, well, the arrow's pointing that way, so I'm going to shade that way. That works only when the variable's first. So that's, again, like on that other problem Caleb did, why I rewrite it with the variable first. Alright, now I'm going to be really mean to you. I got one that's got parentheses and fractions. Woohoo! 1/4 times m plus 3 plus 2 is less than or equal to, I haven't looked at that here lately, 3/4 times m plus 8. Alright, I'm going to do this one with you. Any thoughts about how to start? Distribute, same as last one, good job. Gets me 1/4 m. 1/4 times 3 is just 3/4. Then still got plus 2. I'll clean that up in a little bit, I reckon. Bring down my less than or equal to sign. 3/4 times m. 3/4 times 8, that's a friendly fraction. Because I know 8 over 4 is the same as 2, so 3 times 2 is 6. If you still are struggling with that mental math of fractions, it's not the end of the world. Put it in your calculator. hate saying that, but at this point, 12th grade's not the time to teach fractions. All right, back to the left side. I've got some like terms. 3/4 plus 2. Here's the way I'm going to do this. Y'all do it how you want to. 2 is the same as 8/4, right? 8 divided by 4 equals 2. So 8/4 plus 3/4 is 11/4. Good job. Alright, now this one, based on my logic, presents me a little bit of a problem. Because I'm thinking how I'm going to keep my variables positive, and the way to keep my variables positive would be to subtract 1/4 m, right? Which then that's going to put my m on the right side where I don't like it. So, you know, there's this one, it's not going to be my favorite problem. We can do it however you want to. So any suggestions? How would you do it? You want me to do what I said, or you got a better way? What's up? Okay, subtract 1/4 m from both sides. So that gets me, that's gone, 11/4 is less than or equal to 3/4 minus 1/4 is 2/4, which is a half. So we got a half m plus 6. Okay, yeah, I got to subtract the 6. Don't have a choice on that. Okay. Way I'm going to do that, you do it how you want. You just type 11/4 minus 6 in your calculator. I know 6 is the same as 24/4, right? 24 divided by 4 is 6. So 11 minus 24, I think that's negative 13. Negative 13/4 is less than or equal to 1/2 m. Only thing that's making this problem a little bit complicated is your fraction work. If this was whole numbers, you'd be flying. My m speed multiplied by half. How do I undo that? Divide by half. Now, more fraction review here. Dividing by half is the same as multiplying by what? 2. Very good. The reciprocal, which is 2. Very good. So that's just going to be negative 26/4. Let me reduce that. Take out 2, negative 13/2. Is that what everybody got on that? Nobody check me? Should be. Alright, so for all purposes now, I've solved it for m. So I'm good, and if you know, you could circle that and turn that in, and that's correct. But I got to now graph this and write it in interval form. So just for my personal preference, if I've got to graph this, I'm going to rewrite it with the variable first. Okay, so right now this says negative 13/2 is less than or equal to m. That's the same as m being greater than or equal to negative 13/2. Okay, everybody all right on that? Can you get my number line ready? What the heck is negative 13/2? Anybody know?
6, 7 1/2.
Right, right. Because 12/2 is 6. It'd be 6 1/2. Yeah, it'd be 6 1/2. So I'm going to go, if this is negative 13/2, that's negative 6 1/2. So here I'm going to put me a negative 6 and a negative 7, just so I know what I'm between. Okay? Greater than that would go to the right. What kind of mark goes on my negative 13/2? Bracket. That's good. In the hook. Alright, we got a couple more types of problems to look at, and I'll give you a few to try on your own, so you're doing good, almost there, hang in there. Next type is a 3-part inequality, and these are kind of cool. Everybody done with your answer on that? Everybody good? Alright, I got 5 is less than 3x minus 4 is less than 9. Okay, it's called a 3-part inequality because here you've got a part, here you got a part, here you got a part. Those inequality signs separate that up into 3 parts. Okay, 2 different ways to do this, and I'll show you both ways, and you can pick your favorite. way that I did this with middle school kids is I made them write it out into two separate problems. Okay? When we get the two separate problems by starting on the far left and going all the way to the second sign. So I would write 5 is less than 3x minus 4. Okay, then I get my second problem by starting after the first sign and going all the way to the end. So my second problem would be 3x minus 4 is less than 9. So those are the two problems I have to solve. Okay, this is method number 1. I'll show you method number 2 here in just a second. To solve this one here, I would add 4. So that would give me 9 is less than 3x. And then all I need to do is divide by 3. So 3 is less than x, which is the same as x is greater than 3. Those are both correct. Now notice the two steps that I did. I added 4 divided by 3. Okay, what am I going to do first on this problem on the right? Add 4, same thing. 3x is less than 13. And then what am I going to do? Divide by 3. So I did the exact same two steps. Okay, I'm going to hold the number line in interval. We still got to do that. I'm going to hold that for later. I want to show you the other way to solve this real quick. Let me write it down without the highlighter. Because we did the same thing. We added 4, divided by 3, divided by 3. So since I'm a junior or senior now and I got some brains in my head, could I do that without writing it in two equations or two inequalities like I made the middle school kids do? Yeah, look here at your meat. That's that middle part. It's got 4 being subtracted, so I'm going to add 4 to itself and to both sides. Okay, so here that gets me 9. It's less than 3x. That 4 went away. Is less than 13. Now my middle on my meat there, it's being multiplied by 3, so I'm dividing by 3, and I divide to both sides. So it gets me 3 is less than x is less than 13/3. Most of the time, high schoolers, when I show them that, they prefer that way. It does not matter. I got 3 and I got 13/3 on either way. Now, this one to me makes more sense to graph because I see that x has to be between 3 and 13/3. Right? That's the way I read that. X is between 3 and 13/3. That's just common sense words. Let's go ahead and look at it on our number line. You got to know what 13/3, where that falls in regards to 3. Is 13/3 bigger? It's 4 1/3. Very good, because 12/3 is 4, so it's a third bigger than that. So I've got 3, and 13/3 will be just a little bit bigger than that. Okay, I'm going to be really lazy on this number line. This is how x has to be between that. So I'm shading the part between that. Now look up here where I wrote these answers. Is that what that says? I went to the right of 3 and I went to the left of 13/3. So I get that same thing either way. Okay, now I'm going to close that shaded part in, but will it be with brackets or parentheses? Parentheses. So your interval notation, it's 3 to 13/3. Yep. Yep.
I'm watching a TV show like Criminal Minds or something, and like this dude like murdered his girl to 3, and like on like the 3rd floor, the 3rd elevator.
It's crazy. People always say that bad stuff happens in 3s. It's like you had a wreck, dog died, something else is going to happen. I don't know if that's true. That's what people say.
2011, like 3 people passed away that I knew, and like they were literally all in the car. Like my grandma passed away. We buried my grandma the day before Christmas that year.
Alright, let me let you try another one. We'll do it together. Try another one of those before we look at the last type of problem. This one says -2 is less than or equal to -3k. Ooh, I threw you a negative variable. -3k minus 1 is less than or equal to 5. Alright, so we're going to solve it, we're going to graph it, and we're going to write it in interval notation. Do you want me to write it twice, the first way I showed you, or to attack it like it is. Attack it like it is. I heard Valentina. Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah, go get it.
All righty. It's got 1 being subtracted. So I'm going to add 1 to itself and to both parts. Okay, don't forget to do it to both parts. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. Bring down my sign. Bring down my negative 3k. I got rid of that 1. Bring down my sign. 5 plus 1 is 6. Alright, here's the part you got to be careful about. My k is being multiplied by negative 3. So I'm going to be dividing by a negative 3 over 2 inequality signs, which means both of those inequality signs are going to flip. Okay? So divide here by negative 3 and divide both other pieces by negative 3. Negative by negative is a positive. That sign has to flip. That gives me k. 6 divided by negative 3. That k looks like a sign. 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2, and that sign has to flip. Okay, so let's get our number line cracking. Negative 2 is smaller than 1/3, so just get my... Alright, k has to be between those, doesn't it? Isn't that what that reads? Isn't that what that says?
Correct.
So shade on one there in between them. What kind of marks are going to close that in? Brackets or parentheses? Brackets. Good job. So now just copy that into your interval notation. Bracket, negative 2, 1/3, bracket. Good job. Hey, bless you. Just scared me. Hey. Alright, I got one more type of problem for you, and it's your favorite word problem. We've been doing good at those lately. We'll work that, and then we'll give you a few problems to try on your own. We may do 2 word problems. Let's do 2 word problems. Okay, great idea.
1.
Oh, come on, Austin. Let's do 2.
1.
Alright, it says a rental company charges $15 to rent a chainsaw. So, $15 to rent a chainsaw plus $2 per hour. So if I'm writing this in an inequality or equation form, I know I'm going to have $2 an hour plus 15. I've got my expression